Over the last few weeks, Roblox has been rocked by one of the ugliest scandals in its history. A YouTuber with over 500,000 subscribers, someone who was supposed to be a trusted face in the community, has been exposed for disturbing behavior that no one saw coming.
BeaPlays, who is also known as Basically Bee, is an English YouTuber and Twitch streamer. She is a former member of the Yogscast, which is a group of YouTubers that play and film Minecraft and other multiplayer games together.
I'm talking about BeaPlays, the former community manager for Dress to Impress. What started with shady game events and broken promises has spiraled into accusations of manipulation, exploitation, and one of the worst responses I've ever seen from a YouTuber. This isn't just another piece of Roblox drama. This is about power, betrayal, and how one influencer nearly destroyed an entire community. So buckle up, because today we're exposing Roblox's worst YouTuber. BeaPlays wasn't just some random Roblox creator. She was positioned as one of the faces of Dress to Impress, one of the most hyped Roblox titles of the year, and had direct influence over thousands of young players. But the cracks started showing early. The Lady Gaga collaboration, which should have been a landmark event, turned out to be nothing more than cheap PR bait. Fans felt scammed, realizing the event offered almost nothing it promised. That's when people started digging deeper into who was actually running the show behind the scenes. What they found wasn't just disappointing, it was horrifying. Old vlogs, private messages, and testimonies surfaced, showing Bee engaging in conversations with underage fans, crossing boundaries, and creating a toxic environment where staff and players alike felt unsafe. What was once seen as a dream job in Roblox quickly became the centerpiece of a nightmare scandal. Then came Logan. For years, whispers surrounded Bee, but Logan's decision to come forward blew everything wide open. Logan, who was just 16 at the time, detailed how Bee, a 20-year-old adult, blurred the lines of friendship, pressured him into uncomfortable situations, and even paid him money in exchange for photos. This wasn't some vague allegation. Logan provided detailed accounts, including how Bee funded his gaming setup, Twitch subscriptions, and even a plane ticket to the UK. And once he arrived, things only escalated. Logan described being offered alcohol, pressured into intimacy, and gaslit into believing it was all normal. His testimony didn't just confirm suspicions, it proved a disturbing pattern of manipulation that Bee used her platform and influence to carry out. The shocking part? Logan made it clear he wasn't doing this for clout. He just wanted the truth out, so others wouldn't go through the same nightmare.
When he did move to the UK in 2021, Logan says the dynamic only got worse. Within the first week, Bee was already trying to start a relationship. He recalls her offering him money in exchange for acts and even secretly ordered him doubles at bars when he didn't ask for it. One night, he says, she kept trying to do things to me even though I did not want to. By the time Logan returned home, he says he felt manipulated, trapped, and depressed.
When Bee finally spoke up, everyone expected an honest apology. Instead, what the Roblox community got was one of the most tone-deaf, self-centered statements ever released by a YouTuber. And trust me, we've seen some awful apologies before, but Bee's response could easily sit in the Hall of Fame of non-apologies. Rather than directly addressing the allegations, she framed the entire thing around herself. She started with disclaimers like, "This isn't me dodging accountability," but then went on to do exactly that. Paragraphs of rambling about her depression, dysphoria, therapy sessions, volunteering work, and how hard her life has been. Now, don't get me wrong, mental health struggles are real and should be taken seriously. But here's the issue. Depression doesn't give anyone a free pass to exploit a teenager. Dysphoria doesn't erase the fact that Bee was 20 years old when she blurred the line with a 16-year-old fan. Instead of centering the victim, she centered herself, painting the picture of someone who was misunderstood instead of someone who crossed extremely dangerous boundaries. What made it worse was her choice of language. Instead of using words like manipulation or exploitation, B described it as a toxic friendship, or a relationship that was not acceptable. That's not just minimizing, that's reframing a situation of grooming and abuse into something that sounds like a petty high school fallout. The Roblox community immediately caught this, and the backlash was brutal. Viewers called out how B never once addressed Logan by name, never acknowledged the specifics of what he went through, and instead tried to twist the timeline to make herself look younger and the age gap smaller. And then came the cherry on top. B closed her statement by saying she hoped people wouldn't blame her friends, community, or the game dress to impress for her actions. In other words, she shifted the narrative away from herself and back onto the brand, almost as if she wanted to protect the game's image more than she cared about accountability. It read less like a confession and more like a PR memo rushed out to calm investors. The result? Instead of repairing her reputation, B's response destroyed it further. Fans compared it to infamous YouTuber apologies, the kind where crocodile tears and long excuses replaced genuine accountability. People said it was worse than an ukulele apology, and honestly, they weren't exaggerating. For someone who once had influence over a massive young fan base, this was the final nail. Her words didn't bring closure. They reopened wounds and exposed that she cared more about optics than honesty. If B thought her response would silence the backlash, she couldn't have been more wrong. Logan, the victim at the center of this storm, came forward again, and his words completely dismantled everything B had tried to build in her so-called apology. Right from the start, Logan made it clear. He didn't believe B was apologizing out of remorse. He believed she was apologizing because she got caught. And honestly, when you read his words, it's impossible to argue.
Messaged that person. I decided to go to one of their live streams while they were live, and I asked them if we could talk. I guess that means it's okay if I make a video about you then too, because they said, and I quote, I can make a video about whomever or whatever I want. So I said, I guess it's okay if I make a video about you too then. By that logic, genuine question, no hate. Because if I were to make a video about somebody, people would say it's not appropriate because I'm a big YouTuber, because it would mean my audience would all go and attack that person.
He pointed out how B twisted the timeline, claiming she was 19 at the start when in reality, she was 20 and he was 16. That's a big difference. It's not a minor slip-up, it's deliberate narrative control. By making herself seem younger and him older, B was trying to soften the blow, but Logan wasn't letting her get away with it. Then Logan addressed the money. In her response, B framed the financial support, the $2,000 laptop, the Twitch subs, the gifts, as generosity, as if she was just helping out a friend. Logan exposed the truth. Those weren't gifts. They were transactions tied directly to B demanding explicit photos and videos. It turned her story from mentor helping a younger fan into YouTuber using her money to exploit a teenager. And once again, the community saw how B had been trying to spin the story in her favor. Logan also spoke about the UK trip, something B had brushed aside in her statement. According to him, this wasn't some casual, innocent trip. From the very beginning, plans for him to travel were tied directly to B's inappropriate interest in him. Logan revealed how once he arrived, the pressure intensified. Alcohol was involved, boundaries were crossed, and all of it proved that B's downplaying was another attempt at rewriting history. But maybe the most powerful part of Logan's clapback was when he shut down B's excuse of mental illness. He said, "Stop blaming your mental illness and actually take accountability for what you did." That line struck a nerve with the entire Roblox community. It reminded everyone that no excuse, not depression, not dysphoria, not being too young to understand, justifies an adult manipulating a teenager. Logan's raw honesty cut through all of B's PR smoke and mirrors. By the end of his statement, B's reputation was in shreds. Any sympathy her response had managed to scrape together was gone. Logan's testimony made it clear. B wasn't sorry, she was just sorry she got caught. And in the eyes of the community, that was unforgivable. Now, let's talk about Dress to Impress, the game that B represented, because their role in this is just as damning. When the scandal exploded, Players expected a strong, clear response from the devs. Instead, they got silence. The game's Discord server suddenly locked down, general chats were deleted or hidden, and players quickly realized they couldn't even talk about Bee inside the official community space. It felt like the devs were trying to sweep everything under the rug instead of confronting it. This silence raised huge red flags. Remember, Bee wasn't just a YouTuber attached to the game. She was the community manager, one of the most public-facing roles possible. Her actions weren't isolated from the brand. They were tied directly to it. And yet, instead of acknowledging the damage, the devs seemed more worried about protecting their image. No official statement about Bee's behavior. No acknowledgement of Logan's testimony. Nothing to reassure players, many of whom were minors themselves. And when people dug deeper into the game's history, things got even darker. The owner, Gigi, already had a shady reputation, with allegations of doxing, NSFW servers, and protecting staff accused of misconduct. Suddenly, the silence didn't look like professionalism. It looked like a cover-up, a way to avoid accountability for years of mismanagement and toxic culture. The fallout was swift. Players abandoned the game. Roblox itself distanced from Bee by stripping her of her star program status, and her career imploded overnight. She lost her checkmark, her partnerships, and her credibility. But while Bee's career is effectively over, the damage she left behind still lingers. Victims were re-traumatized, trust in the Dress to Impress brand was shattered, and the Roblox community was left asking, how many more scandals like this are hidden under the surface? In the end, the silence from Dress to Impress may have been just as damaging as Bee's actions. Because if a game can't protect its community from its own staff, then how can parents, players, or creators ever trust Roblox spaces to be safe? This wasn't just Bee's downfall. It was a wake-up call for the entire platform.
I noticed that a lot of the people that were getting codes had similar views than me, so I decided to reach out to the community manager and just ask her for how the process was to getting a code, because obviously I was a Dress to Impress YouTuber and I was bringing a lot of attention to the game. And I got really excited about it, so I decided to reach out for the requirements to get a code, or if I could apply to get a code of some sort of way. And she kind of responded in a really weird way and kind of called me entitled because I felt entitled to a code when I was simply just asking. And that was kind of when I took a turn from Dress to Impress. I feel like the community managers of games should support the creators and definitely not disrespect them in any way. And after that happened, I decided to kind of just stay a lot more quiet, and I kind of started to lose love for the game just because I feel like Dress to Impress, I always saw it as such a fun game, such a welcoming game. However, it just felt like the people who worked for Dress to Impress didn't really recognize any of my hard work, and I work really hard, guys. I try to go above and beyond as much as I can in all of my videos, and I just feel like I wasn't getting the recognition I deserve.